Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to the show, everybody. I am so glad you're here. We've got a great guest for you today, and we're going to find out all about him and the work he does. If you want to follow along, you can by going to lifesvaluelearning.com/home, and that'll get you to his home website. And then you'll be able to find out all about him and all the work that he's done. And Taylor, it's a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for being here. How you doing today?
Well, I'm very grateful to be on this show. I believe every day is an opportunity. And today I had the opportunity to hop on your show, talk about mindset, talk about positivity, and how we can use that in our perspective to manifest not just our deepest desires, but to create a beautiful life in advance. And it's all because we have a strong perspective. Everything we accomplish is through our own effort and our own perception. So if we just continue thinking great, being positive, then your outcomes will just be that just as well.
You know, I gotta tell you, young man. Normally on Tuesdays, I don't do a lot of shows, and I have been out for 2 weeks because I hurt myself and had to have my wrist reconstructed, and so I've been out a little bit. I've got 2 months of 8 shows a week that are booked, and I've got 150 people that are doing these 15-minute meetings that we do, and somehow, and I don't know how, but I think it has to do with your mindset and your abilities, you snuck in under all of that radar and ended up on the show today, which is only the third show that I've done since I've come back from my little hiatus and stuff. So welcome and congratulations on your ability to figure out how to get here and to bypass a lot of other shows that are already booked. So congratulations. It has to do with your mindset and the individual that you are, I would have to believe.
I appreciate that. I believe that everything has purpose. And it's not always easy to find our purpose. And it may not be a simple task. It may take a whole lifetime to understand. But I believe that there's purpose of me being on the show and purpose of you allowing me to be on this show with all that things that I surpassed, I guess. So yeah, let's create purpose today. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
So let's talk about Taylor. Did you grow up this way? Did you have a moment in time when you decided that you were going to change and to have an impact in the world? Tell us your story a little bit?
Yeah, I would be honored to talk about my story. So I like to say that I have a complex story, and a lot of the circumstances and experiences that I went through was out of my control. So before I speak on the beginning of my story, I first want to announce that whatever happened, I've made peace of, and whoever did it to me, I completely forgive. I believe that if we hold grudges on people, it creates barriers in our mind. It has instant triggers to negative emotions. So what I've learned throughout the years is to have a balanced mindset, to not let anybody's opinion or any events that happened before control your life in the moment. Okay, so that's just kind of an introduction to that, because I did have a rough story. I did have a rough life in the beginning of my life, and I believe that built character. And so therefore I'm super proud that I went through it. And if I had the ability to change a thing, I most likely wouldn't. So anyways, I grew up in a abusive household where things were against me ever since I was 3 years old. And like I said, I completely forgive anybody who was involved in this. But that abuse continued until I was about 13 or 14 years old. And it was difficult, but I made it out of it. And so, because of that trauma that I faced, it created a negative atmosphere in my brain from probably 12 to 21 years old. And so I had a very negative mindset. I let doubt and fear consume my brain. And I realized eventually that something needed to change. And my answer was my perspective. Perception shapes your life. It's not always based on your circumstance. Happiness doesn't come from an outcome, it comes through the ability to think, to create energy, to be positive in what you're experiencing. I always like to say happiness is from perception and not a circumstance, nor an outcome. And so that's kind of the beginning of my story. You may want to dive into specific areas. So I'm going to let you take the floor, and whatever you want to ask, I would be happy to answer.
Well, and I will tell you this is that we all wake up when we're born. First of all, we're all born great, but we spend time listening to people and having people around us who continually tell us you ain't so great. And we have the opportunity through time and through our own hard work to be able to rise above that. And the experiences that you had when you were a kid, and I'm so glad that you have come to terms with all of that and now are feeling like you can forgive those that did what they did to you. And what they did to you, for the purposes of this discussion, is not important because that's all in the past. And but what that did was that gave you the experience to be able to move forward into the future to do what you were born to do. And sometimes it takes a very, very long time, and sometimes people can figure that out in a younger age. You're not an old man by any stretch of the imagination. So you figured it out at an early age. Was there a particular moment in time where you can pinpoint that you said, I need to figure out why I am the way I am, and to make the changes that I would love to be able to make myself a leader and somebody that can help other people achieve greatness?
Yeah, so I haven't always been a spiritual person. So in my darkest times, when life seemed more complex than it ever did, and this was after the abuse, because after that, I created patterns in my own brain that only led to negative results and negative feelings and emotions. And so I was pretty much consumed by my own thoughts and emotions. And this was all because how I was thinking, the patterns of my consciousness. And so I had all this doubt, fear, and I was overwhelmed on a daily basis. I didn't have a sense of happiness for quite a while. And I guess I was more dwelling into the past, letting that be an excuse of my current habits and thoughts. And so pretty much I felt like I reached rock bottom. And then I was awakened. I became more spiritual. I started to sense the energy, not just within myself, but around me. And so from that, I became extremely careful on which environments that I associate at or associate with. So pretty much just reaching rock bottom with my negative emotions allowed me to snap my brain and say, there's something that needs to change. And so I truly believe that change is not something that happens overnight. It's one step at a time. And in many cases, perhaps 3 steps, 2 steps back, or 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. It's inconsistent. Our life is like a stock chart. It has its ups and downs, it has its spikes, it has all of that. What matters is what we do about it. I always believe that whatever happened in the past does not define the future, but what it does define is your character. The stronger your character is in challenges, the stronger you become, the more fluent you are, and the more power that you obtain through your state of mind.
And when you realize that, and then anything is possible, and anything and everything is possible, because now instead of thinking in terms of the negative of what happened and so forth, now you're looking at, okay, we had all these things in my life and all these experiences, and now I can take them and I can help other people get through them so that they can live their life in the best way possible, which is really what we're here to do, is not necessarily to help ourselves, but to help those people around us. But in order to help them, we have to help ourselves first. Do you agree with that?
100%. 100%.
And
Because if
because
I
you go ahead.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so if I tried to help somebody about 10-ish years ago, I wouldn't have that ability to help people because I was consumed in my own fear and doubt. I'm a strong believer that energy transfers.
Yep.
And so if I was trying to be a motivational speaker at that time, I wouldn't really be able to motivate people because I was trying to cure my own problems, you know?
Yep. Yep. And that is the difficulty, but also the beauty of life, is that we have the opportunity to move forward. I've been so blessed that I've had probably 2,500 interviews, and I've met people like Neil Donald Walsh and Gary Zukav and uh, John Edward and so many other really talented individuals that all come to and tell me virtually the same story. If you listen to, do you know who Neil Donald Walsh is?
I don't think I do, to be honest.
He wrote Conversations with God, 1, 2, and 3. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for 250 weeks, which is like 5 years and some silly thing. And but he had a life that was difficult for him, and he couldn't figure it out, and he was homeless for a period of time and stuff, but all of that led to him being able to get through that and then be able to write the amazing books that he's written. And to do one of the things that he talks about is, um, we have a tendency of and I know you do it in your writings as well, we have a tendency to say, well, if I do this I will be happy. And but the reverse is actually true. If you be happy and you live every day like it is your best day, then things will happen in a positive way, and then you will experience happiness because of the things that you are being, that lead to what is doing, and then you get to have happiness. It's the be do have um difference between what we normally think. We normally think, well, I've got to do this, and then I got to do that, and then if I do this, and if I get that car, if I get that job, if I do this, then I'll be happy. That's not really the way it works. And I'm glad that you have now, first of all, do you agree with that?
Yeah, completely.
And so you have now decided to dedicate your life, as near as I can figure, as dedicating your life to helping other people. And you do that through your work. You've got a podcast coming out, you've got a book that you've written. So you really are taking it by the horns and really trying to make a difference in your life as well as other people's life. Would that be true, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But I wanted to kind of go back to what you just said earlier. I believe abundance is not from an external material. It's from our mindset. It's from our happiness and our fulfillment. Unfortunately, external materials will not fulfill everything. And everything it does fulfill is only temporary. Because being positive is a foundation and not necessarily an outcome. Because if you have a positive outcome without the foundation, then your happiness is temporary until you face some sort of tribulation. So if we focus more on the foundation, which in this case would be our mindset, then we will be able to feel happiness and abundance. Like I said, abundance isn't from a external material. It's from the experience that we witness, I guess, within.
That's it. That's it. You have, when we come back from this break, we need to take a really quick break. It's just like 30 seconds. But when we come back, I want to ask you about where you got so wise from, and did you have a mentor and or a coach or somebody that helped you understand a little bit more about yourself so that you could rise above the hate, negativity, fear that you felt as an earlier man, and to now be in a position that you're in where you're just starting out and doing some incredible work. You're listening to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald and Terry Bowden, and we are going to Taylor Bowden, excuse me, and we are going to be right back after this real quick message. Don't go away, anybody, please.
When the game is on the line, championship teams know the game plan. They communicate and work together to win. We all need a game plan to protect ourselves online. Talk to family and friends so they know how to stay safe too. Create strong passwords, turn on multi-factor authentication, update software, and recognize and report phishing, because online safety is not something you want to fumble. Get more game-winning tips at CISA.gov/secure our world. Then share them with family and friends.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. And we've got a great guest for you today. His name is Taylor Bowden. If you go to his website, which is lifesvaluelearning.com/home, you'll find all about him and the moments in time that he had taken. Now, I got to ask you, were you did you come from a spiritual family growing up, or is this something that you just reached out and started to do some research on your own because you wanted a different way to live?
Great question. So my household was born, I guess, in a spiritual atmosphere. So both my mom and dad were spiritual. But things got tough. So like I said, I had a very abusive household, and it was hard to feel peace within that. CPS got involved several times, so that just indicates how bad it actually got. So eventually, there was a spiritual death in the household where nobody was really spiritual in many cases. And so eventually, I left my spiritual world or my spiritual thoughts and entered a very dark atmosphere. Like I explained, with fear, doubt, hesitation, and all that consumed me. So that's kind of the journey that I had with my spiritual life for the first about 15, 18 years. Being born in a spiritual place that became a spiritual absence. There was something missing of me. There was something that had so much more, but didn't know exactly what it was and couldn't pinpoint it. That spiritual absence led me to find what was missing. The thing that was missing is my spiritual connection. I believe the spiritual connection has a strong relevance to our own brain and thoughts. And so that's kind of my spiritual journey And it led to know for a fact that being spiritual, regardless if you are religious or not, but being spiritual is a sense of power. It's a powerful, happy sensation that we hold within.
Well said, sir. Well said, because you're absolutely right. But I'm curious to know because, see, when I was 42 and I'd been a district sales manager and I was successful and all of that, but I wasn't particularly happy. And I didn't really know how I was going to get happy, but I knew what I was doing wasn't making me happy. And so I went on a spiritual journey and met some other friends, and we learned about meditation and mindfulness and so many things. And then I had the opportunity to interview so many people. But in your case, was there a moment in time when you were having a conversation with somebody and they started telling you a little bit more about a spiritual existence and a way to be, or did you do this all by yourself? And if you did, congratulations. It's really hard to do by yourself.
Yeah, so I could not take that credit. It definitely wasn't by myself. Even though my parents aren't really spiritual people, even to this day in some cases, or they have their own version of being spiritual. I give a lot of the credit to my grandparents, and in my perspective and my opinion, they're pretty much my parent figures. They've been like a mom and dad to me for my whole life. They were great examples and still are. They helped me, they cared for me when I thought care wasn't possible. I thought that it would be impossible for me to be happy in that negative mindset that I experienced. So I give a lot of credit to my grandparents, which I call Nana and Papa. They have been a very strong foundation, and they helped me. They, in many cases, mentored me spiritually to become the person that I am today. So if it wasn't for them, I don't know exactly where I would be, but it definitely will not be here in this opportunity on the podcast and the opportunity that I get from a positive perspective.
Well, I'm going to share something with you that I know to be true. That before you were born, and you were standing there with your grandparents, and they said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And there's a whole thing played out with your parents and your grandparents, but they were a foundational piece to you to take you from where you were to where you are now and where you're going, which is, it's got to be, you're a young guy. It's got to be really exciting for you.
It is. I'm looking forward to the next 5 or 10 years.
5 or 10 years? Come on. How about 60?
Well, even better.
Because you're going to be doing some extraordinary work, because this life and what it's all about is helping people, being kind to people, loving people, and being able to forgive those who and by the way, when we talk about forgiveness, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be best buddies with those people anymore, but it does mean that you understand why they did what they did and you forgive them for that, because you're going to take the experiences that you got from those moments and be able to take them and to move yourself into a much better place and to continue to move forward, which is exactly what you're doing now. Do you do a lot of meditation? Do you do mindfulness training? I know you're a martial arts guy too, right?
Yep, that's correct. You see it on my board or what?
Yeah.
My blue belt somewhere up there.
I read your information. So you are a skilled martial arts person. You are skilled at helping people learn how to live their lives better and to physically, especially men and older men, be able to physically get better and live their lives to a much better level than they currently are. And men, we're not all that smart, I'm so sorry to say, because a lot of us do that. Um, and we live where you were in hate, division, and fear, and we live our whole lives in that, rather than to wake up and say, no, there's a better way. Do you agree with that?
100%. A lot of us do live in it. We create our patterns and we live in these patterns. They just repeat and repeat and repeat. We have to rewire our consciousness. It's
Yep.
not an easy task. It's not
But
easy whatsoever, but it's one step at a time.
but it's fun, don't you think?
At times, yes, it can be stressful, but the outcome or the transition can be extremely fun because when you think about it, if you're living life in fear and doubt, wouldn't you think rewiring your brain will lead to a happier and more abundant life? I mean, maybe we all have different opinions, but in mine, that will be extremely fun, but not just fun, useful, beneficial, and not just that, but more satisfying.
Exactly. Now, how did your martial arts training, because that came from the East and they are a lot more spiritual than we are, and some of the ideas and thoughts that carry forward with martial arts are from that place of kindness and taking care of each other and not using the gifts that you're gaining to hurt other people but to protect yourself and to protect others. Did you find that your martial arts training helped you in that way?
Yes, it did. It taught me self control, especially in a moment where or when I was learning self control, not just physically, but mentally. So it enhanced me learning what self control was. It helped me understand that if I'm in power of my own emotions, even when somebody comes in and threats me or makes fun of me or laughs behind my back or any of those things that people typically do, without that changing my mindset, without that changing my emotions or my aggression, so pretty much staying in a calm state. To me, being in a calm state of mind is one of the most powerful things. I know we spoke a lot about abundance. That is the key to abundance, is being in a calm state without letting your emotions dictate what will happen next. Because instead, you're in control of your emotions, you're in control of your actions and everything that you do. That is a powerful way of life, a key way to abundance.
And I like to say, and I've said it many times on the show, have you ever heard the gospel according to Paul McCartney?
Potentially.
And basically, it's he wrote the song because his mother came to him in a dream, Mother Mary, and the name of the song is called "Let It Be." And she came to him and said, because he was all worried about the Beatles breaking up and all this, and she came to him in a dream and she said, "Son, just let it be. Everything's going to turn out just fine." And if you take that attitude and do it from a positive nature like you have, then everything's going to turn out fine. It's going to turn out just the way that you want it to be. Now, does that mean it's going to be all roses and cranberry sauce from every moment of your life? No, we still have challenges. We still have up and down, but it depends upon how you handle those challenges. It determines on how you're going to live your life. Do you agree with that?
Yes, 100%. In our human nature, we can probably look back in our past and pinpoint millions of mistakes. We shouldn't dwell in those. Do we ever get mad at a baby trying to crawl? Then that baby that soon crawls trying to walk? No. And we're the same baby. We're the same thing trying to learn from one way to another. We're that same being that will make mistakes and fall when we try to walk. So these millions of mistakes that we face shouldn't really take advantage of who we are today. I know even myself, I dwell in my mistakes. I try not to. I try to make peace with it and accept it. But that's who we are. Like you said, we're not the smartest thing. We don't comprehend all things like God does. We comprehend very little compared to his level. And so the million mistakes that we have faced or have done in our lives, that is just human nature. But if we let that take control of who we are today, then we are in that pattern of making those same mistakes. Then unfortunately, I'm going to say that we will make millions of more mistakes. That is human nature. Make peace with it.
It will happen over and over and over again until you decide, and this is speaking to everybody that's out there, until you decide for yourself to make a change within your own life and to live your life in a completely different manner or way. And if you open, and when we come back from this break, I want to ask you, because this is what happened to me. If you open your heart, open your mind, and you say, I'm ready, to the universe, to the powers that be, to your guardian angels, to your spirit guides, all those folks that are around you, if you say to them, I am ready, give me what I can handle when I can handle it, and teach me and give me the opportunities to be who I really am and why I came here in the first place. And when we come back, I want to talk more about that, because that is paramount to living your best life, in my humble opinion. And by the way, we're talking with Taylor Bowden, and go to his website, which is lifevaluelearning.com/home. We need to take our station break, and we'll be right back, so don't go anywhere, please.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. We've got a great guest here for you today. His name is Taylor Bowden, and he's a martial arts instructor. He's also working with people to help them live their lives a little bit better, with better nutrition, and he's a life coach, and he does all kinds of different stuff. But I got to ask you, going into the break, I said that at one point in my life, I basically said, okay, this ain't enough. This ain't all there is. There can't be. There's got to be more. Why am I really here? What am I really here to do? And I opened my heart to that, and things began to magically change. Did you have that experience at all?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happened.
Aha. So so that means that we're both on the right path when we start talking in terms of allowing the understanding, first of all, that we're not here by ourselves, that we've got our spirit guides and our family and stuff that are on the other side that are still aware of what we are doing. And when we take the moment in time and open ourselves up and say, okay, I'm ready to learn how to live my life the way that I designed it for myself before I even got here. And then things begin to just magically change. It's remarkable. My story is absolutely proof of that. And yours is beginning to be that, is it not?
Yes, actually, it's been proven, completely proven in my life.
How so?
So the things that people call coincidences, to me, is divine purpose.
There
And
are
I
no
can
coincidences. Yeah. Go
exactly.
ahead.
And so I've just seen things in my life that could have turned really bad. Like, for example, about 3 or 4 years ago, I had a successful group home business where we helped pretty much Native Americans through somewhat of a rehab program that would probably be homeless if they didn't have this program that they went through. And so the outcome of having that group home business is one of my best friends at the time scamming me and letting me be liable and even responsible for all the things at the end when the business pretty much ended. So that put me several $1,000s in debt. Now, when I had one of these houses under my name, by the way, I didn't purchase a house, I was renting the house. We pretty much had a argument where the business was done. And so I had another friend that was in charge of group homes. And because of him, he placed his people in his group home in my house, which gave me income. Otherwise, I would have probably been evicted because I didn't have any other income at that point. And this is just one of the many experiences that I've witnessed that divine purpose is placed in our lives exactly when we need it the most. Right when we hit rock bottom is when we find a spiritual peace, a guide that will allow us to see something differently, allow us to see the future with less fear and more opportunity.
And if you recognize that, and first of all, you have to say yes to it. Now, you could have just shut down the house, and you could have said, "No, no, I'm done with this. I got screwed over, and I'm just done with this." But you didn't do that. You and this gentleman recognized that, and so he put people into your house that you could continue to help, and I assume it was kind of like a halfway house where they were getting some treatment, and they were also had a place to live rather than living on the street and stuff. So what he did for you, you did for yourself at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Right. And then I kind of want to add something that I just remembered from that same scenario. So this was right around when I started becoming spiritual again. And I had several $1,000s just stacked up from the group home business. So I am LDS, for the people that know or don't know. It's Mormon Latter-day Saints, right? And I was
Right?
barely getting spiritual at that point. And I go into my bishop, which is pretty much a pastor in many other churches. I go to him and I'm like, well, I want to be temple worthy. And he's like, well, you have to pay your tithing. So this is right when my business went south, when my sold call business partner scammed me and put me several $1,000s in debt. I had this money saved and I decided to pay the tithing, even though in my head I'm like, crap, I don't have a solid income. So I pay my 10% of whatever I was making at that point, and I pay it to show that I have faith and that I'm willing to sacrifice my limited comprehension for somebody who can comprehend everything. A ultimate guide. Gave him 10%. And then I don't know exactly how many days later, my friend came to me and said that, hey, don't worry, I'll put my clients in your group home and pay you for it. Pay your rent and your I guess wage. And so that happened right in that sequence, which is beautiful. It's the power of faith.
And that's really is part of the overall experience of what you are going through, and your experience with learning and being open to other people helping you. It's a really is a magical experience. It really is. And you are a spiritual man. Are you still involved with the Mormon Church? Are you doing more than that? Are you what is your life mission and passion all about these days?
Well, I believe, because Mormon is Christian,
Yeah.
I believe that we have a perfect example, and that is Jesus Christ. I truly believe it. I want to speak to the people that may not be religious just as well, because I think they can resonate or they can learn something from my story and my perspective. But yes, I'm still doing that. One of my purposes is to help as many people as I possibly can. That is one of my deepest desires, and I think that's my divine purpose, because I have the ability to help and motivate people. I'm very empathetic. I look for people suffering because one day, I mean, a day in the past, I experienced a very deep suffer. And it was more than just the physical abuse that I experienced, it was just the mindset. Now I have a trigger in me. When I see somebody hurting, I try to allocate all my time towards that person, or allocate some of my time and resources to that person. I'm sure we all have heard of, I guess maybe not everybody, but we've heard of the story of the Good Samaritan, where there was a guy in the New Testament, or yeah, I think it was the New Testament,
Yep.
that was suffering. He was pretty much beaten down and nobody really helped him when this person needed help the most. I like to be that good Samaritan that was the third person that passed and decided to help, because I needed people. There was a time where I needed help, any help that I could get. And for the people that helped me, I believe that was one of my greatest opportunities. They comforted me in this time of need. I noticed how that impacted my life, so I want to be that same impact in other people's lives. That is my divine purpose. My divine purpose is not just to watch out for my family, because I believe that's a very big purpose of mine, to watch out for my family and secure. I'm not married or have kids, but to secure my future household and make sure it's a secured place in the world we live in, because the world can be a crazy place, as we all have experienced. But my other big purpose is to be that boost in somebody's life. We all need it.
And we do. It's vital that we take, and whether or not you are involved in a organized religion. I'm not. I grew up Lutheran, but I'm much more of a spiritually driven person than, because I think there is so much more that we don't understand than we do understand of. And the churches were developed and created by men, and they don't necessarily have the complete picture, or whatever, or in some cases they do. And if you feel compelled to be in an organized religion, that's great. Just don't um don't not question everything is the only thing that I would say. But other than that, it is vital. And by the way, did you know, and I think you know this, service is the highest calling that a human being can have, service to others.
100%. I believe that's the easiest escape to your own problems, is by helping other people in theirs. And back onto one of the things you just quoted, we have a human interpretation. All of us have that same limit of how we interpret. Most of us interpret through emotions. It's not always logical, but it is logical to experience emotions. It's interesting how that works. I kind of want to repeat that one more time, just in case if it resonates. We typically experience emotions and not always or we don't experience being logical, but it's logical to experience emotions. That is our human nature. So in that case, we have a human interpretation. We don't go beyond physics more than each other. We all have the same opportunity of being the best we possibly can. It just depends on how you perceive it. So back to your question, I kind of got carried away. But can you actually repeat the end of your question one more time?
Oh, probably not.
That's okay.
That. I got to tell you, Taylor, that was so long ago. But no, it's well, first of all, I need to take a real quick our final break of the day, and when we come back, I do want to talk to you in regards to where you see your future, where you're going to go from here, and how big do you choose to be in the world of service to others. And I know you're developing a plan, or a plan is going to find you one way or another, and it may be because of this podcast that somebody says, hey, I saw Taylor and I think he's wonderful, and I would really like him to come work with us to be of service to other people. So we'll be right back after this and more with Taylor Bowden. Go to his website, which is lifesvaluelearning.com/home. Find out all about him and all the work that he does, because he does a ton of stuff. We'll talk about that when we come back. At 67 years young, I never thought I'd feel this good again. But thanks to Purium's Ultimate Transformation Lifestyle, to date, I've lost 37 pounds and gained energy, confidence, and a whole new outlook on life. This isn't a diet. Purium is a complete lifestyle change, giving me all the natural, organic, nutrition-packed superfoods that fuel my body, crush my cravings, and help me burn fat naturally without starving myself. No gimmicks, no guesswork, just a simple, proven system that works. Superfood shakes, detox support, and real results. If I can do this at 67, imagine what you can do. It's your time to feel better, look better, and live better with Purium. Let's do it now, and let's do it together. Go to www.positivetalkradio.net and click on the Transform You to get started. That's positivetalkradio.net. Transform You. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. I had somebody yesterday tell me, hey, that's a song out of the 80s. And that might be, but I love playing that song. We're talking with Taylor Bowden, and we're talking about him, his life, all the things. Then, the one thing that I want to make perfectly clear is that even though when you grew up and your parents claimed to be spiritual people, I would suggest to you that they were not living their truth and doing everything, because if you grew up in an abusive home, that is not the nature of what spiritualism or being a spiritual person is all about. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I definitely agree.
And so, but sometimes we get caught in labels. I'm not real big into labels. I don't care. Well, as an example, I don't care what sex you are. I don't care who you love. I don't care what color you are. We are all one. We are all connected to each other, and we're connected to the divine. And if we recognize that, then it changes everything about what we think. I'm looking at your website, and you have different modules that people can tap into. One is positive thinking. That's always helpful. Leadership skills, self-mastery, growth mindset, goal setting, self-development skills. You're doing all of that, and you're helping people at the same time. Amazing.
Yes, exactly.
And so where do you see yourself in? I don't know. I figure you're somewhere in the late 20s, early 30s. Am I close?
Let's get a more specific guess. You're close.
Okay, we don't need to get more specific than that, but I'm a little older than that. So where do you see yourself in 40 years, which is where I am today?
I want to write as many books as I possibly can. I think one of my greatest talents is articulating my thoughts through writing it down or typing it down. It makes me understand the world in a fuller aspect. It allows me to put in my knowledge in reality. It allows me to kind of tap in my subconscious and explain what's happening in there or what I perceive in there. That's one thing. I really do want to write as many books as I possibly can.
And by the way, before we go further, people are saying, oh, he's written a book? Yes, he has. It's called The Valued Leader. and you can learn leadership skills, goal setting and management, risk education, and a whole bunch of different things from a positive perspective rather than most businesses operate from a negative perspective. And you can change your entire culture of your entire company by changing how you value that. So the valued leader, I'm looking forward to reading that. And how long did that take you to write?
I don't know exactly how long it took to write, but it took a year and a half to publish. So meaning writing, getting it proofread, formatting it, and uploading it on Amazon. It took about a year and a half.
And yeah, and it does take time, but it's got a 5-star rating. You've got some reviews, so congratulations. You should be very proud of yourself for doing that.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I am. So there's one part that I want to kind of emphasize that's in that book. I guess 2 things. The first one is it talks about how anybody can be a leader. We all have our unique experiences, our unique talents, and something that is unique that we can bring to the world. We all have that. We're all different, living in our own existence. We all have information, guidance, some form of inspiration that we can share with others. We all have that ability. We all have the same ability to accomplish something. And I'm going to relate this back to my story. 10 years ago, I didn't have a happy life. I didn't have any motivation, nor did I have discipline. So if I experienced what I experienced, and I still got to this moment that I'm at right now with all these opportunities, then so can you. So that's kind of what the valued leader is. It talks about how you can become a leader, how it's an equal, fair ground. Obviously, it's going to require effort and time to actually accomplish it, but we all have that fair ground. And it talks about how we can use goals to allow us to progress, because I believe progression is a key element of experience in life. Without progression, I wouldn't know how to picture the world, but I would
I
imagine
have a pretty good
times.
idea, and I'm not really happy with it, quite frankly. But that's a story for another time. But Taylor, I wanted to ask you because I believe, and I've been a district sales manager, and I was a restaurateur, and I had 75 employees working for me. I firmly believe that the best leader are the best servants of the business and also to the people that work for them, to give them the best and every opportunity to be the best that they can be, and to support them rather than being, I'm the boss, I'm the CEO, see that name on the wall, that's me, and I'm so cool, and aren't I special. That is absolutely not the way that I ran my businesses, and I'd love your opinion on that. What do you think?
It's an awesome concept. I think it's completely accurate. I always see posts on social media. There's a difference of being the boss and a leader. You can still be the boss while being a leader, but if you're just a boss and not a leader, then people don't really follow you in the same way, in the same energy. They may follow you because of influence, maybe because of you or that specific person is what pays their bills, but it decreases the energy in the work. With a low amount of energy concentrated in the work, the less that boss probably profits. So it's all a cycle, but do it for the intentions of being good and being a leader, not just a boss, you know?
Well, it's interesting. When one of the restaurants that I ran, the first day that I became that I joined them in a meeting, and I had the entire staff there, and I introduced myself, and I said, "And by the way, I want everybody to know this: my job, solely and completely, is to make you the most money that I can." And everybody looked at me like, "What? He's talking about us making money?" And because it all goes hand in hand. if the staff is happy, if they are serving the people better, they're cooking the food better, they're washing the dishes better, they're cleaning the tables better, because everybody is now invested in the best that they can be so that they personally can make more money. But because of that, the business flourishes because people come there and say, this place is different than any other place I've ever been, because everybody seems to be happy because they're motivated to be there. Is that a good strategy in your mind?
100%. 100%. It seems like it's one of the most valuable strategies. We all have our own feelings and emotions, and if we neglect each other's emotions and feelings, then we become more self-centered. When people are self-centered, there's a lot less done, because one versus many will majority overcome, I guess, or will be more successful than just one.
Yep. We're all one. We're all working together. And now that isn't to say that when you do, and occasionally I did run across people who did not buy into that philosophy and were not interested in making sure that the guests were taken care of, and the food came, and all of the things that are necessary to run a restaurant. Well, then that's okay. I love them still, but they can't work here anymore because that isn't in line with what we want to accomplish. And that's okay. They don't have to, but more and more people want to, because it's successful. And so that happens too. And it's the same thing in life, isn't it? You can't make anybody change who they are. You can give them the opportunity to look at it, but if they say, "Oh no, Taylor, you're nuts, and I don't subscribe to anything that you say," you just love them and bless them and let them go. Is that fair?
Yes, 100%. So I like everything that you quote, because I definitely agree with all of it. So we worry about too many things that we can't control. We worry about a lot of politics, things in our work, our social life. We're all worried about things we can't control, like somebody else's opinion. We can't control that. But what we can control is our own mind and our own opinion. And so try to be intentional on how you think. A lot of the times we go back into patterns. So kind of allowing other people's opinions change who we are. We should always be good people. Good people have the largest amount of abundance, but don't let other people's opinions alter that.
I'm sure you've heard the expression, "It's none of my business what you think of me."
I like it.
Because it doesn't matter. Everybody's got their own agenda. And the agendas that somebody else has is not your agenda. If you are honestly trying to be true to yourself and true to other people, and that's your agenda, doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
Right? And you probably have more purpose that way too.
You do. And you're more unwavering, because, and by the way, the sad thing is sometimes that means that you change friends, you change people, because they're now vibrating at a much lower level than you are. But you know what happens? The coolest thing in the world, the people that do vibrate at that higher level will show up, and they will find you, and then that leads you to a better place in time. Again, Taylor, I want to thank you for being here. Taylor Bowden has been our guest. Go to his, stop it, it's the president calling. Go to his website, which is, give us your website real quick. I'm on the wrong page.
lifesvaluelearning.com/home.
lifevaluing.com/. And Taylor, we've run out of time and I have to go, but I want to give you an opportunity to tell our audience anything you'd like them to know.
Yeah, so one thing that I will like to emphasize real fast is you can rewire your mind at any time. You can become exactly what you desire by just being intentional and be focused on that aspect. If we create a larger energy in our brain, which I call the gravity of focus, whatever we focus on, or whatever we're conscious about typically has the strongest amount of focus. But if we want to rewire our brain to become something great, then create that energy towards that. Keep that momentum. Fuel it everything you can. Fuel it with everything you can. Fuel it with passion. Fuel it with energy, time, effort, and everything you can devote to it. And I promise you can rewire your brain and become exactly what you desire. We can all master the state of mind.
I wish I'd have said that. That was really good. So Taylor Bowden has been our guest, and I want to thank you so much for being here. You're going to have to come back, and we're going to have to do this again because there's not a lot more to talk about.
Right. I definitely believe it. Well, you have my contact information. I am very thankful for this opportunity. I think every day that I have an opportunity like this, it gets me closer to accomplishing my goal, my passion, and my purpose, which is helping people.
And that is the highest purpose that a person can have. And so thank you again, Taylor Bowden. Go to his website again, which is lifesvaluelearning.com/home. And sir, stay right there, and I will be right back. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.